Welcome, everyone, to the TopCyberPro podcast. I'm Jim West, the CEO and founder of TopCyberPro.com. And today I am so fortunate to have a phenomenal human being on the podcast to share, a little bit of his life story. And, we're going to talk a lot of different things we're going to talk about. This is going to be a very jam-packed conversation with Mr. Erfan. And I just want to turn it right over to him that he can introduce himself. He's got a lot of great credentials, but more importantly, he has a phenomenal story to share. And I think that's what's best to open with, Arfan. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Jim. This is a great opportunity. I'm seriously honored. Well, my name is Arfun. I'm an ex-aerospace engineer, red teamer. I do be testing pens for a living. Senior security researcher at CSI Linux. Definitely the smallest member of cybersecurity, and honored to be here.
Well, you mentioned a couple of things in that short statement, and then we're going to come back to those. So I don't want to take away from, we need to really start as, what are the things in life, the events in life that brought you to cyber and that brought you to where you are today? Because I think there's a powerful story there that out of tragedy, you found kind of your calling and purpose is the way I perceive your story. But I want you to share that if you don't mind.
Definitely. For me, honestly, I mean, I always had access to computers, and I was always using them, but they were in my life. My start was with OSINT, open source intelligence, which is basically the practice of collecting, analyzing, and basically utilizing publicly available information to answer a specific intelligence question. And how I came to that was basically everything starts with a struggle in life, a cause. And if we're lucky enough to open our eyes, a new day will dawn for those who stand long. And lo and behold, here comes the question. And the next step is to ask whether this question is the right question or not. For me, it started with a struggle. I was in 2019. I was a student in a university. I was studying aerospace. I was about to finish my major. It was about my last year. Well, first of all, I gotta tell you guys this, that I'm from Iran and Persia. There are a lot of corruptions going on in that country, unfortunately, and right now we are living under the suppressive regime of the Islamic Republic. I'm really glad that I get to say these today, but in 2019, I was a student, and because of the corruption, we had to use old buses. So we used to complain all the time about them. Nobody did anything, of course. One day, 10 students die, and one of the bus crashes, and 10 students die. One of them was one of my best friends. That was the start for me. So I wrote something. I went up. I started reading that. We closed the university for 10 days. We were demanding answers. Of course, nobody gave us any answers. And 3 months later, I got expelled. But it's not really important. We fast forward to November 2019. We start revolting in the streets of Tehran, all over Iran. And in 3 days, that regime kills 1,500 people. And that was when I found, basically, that was the waking call for me. I had to do something. I had to protect myself and others, because that's all I had to do, all I could have done. So yeah, that's how I started doing OSINT, learning about OSINT. And I started with following this guy on basically Twitter. His name was Aleph. He's a brilliant guy. I definitely recommend you guys to follow him. And I was like, I want to do things like him. I want to do the things that he is doing. At the time, he was like doing geospatial intelligence and OSINT. And I was like, what is OSINT? And then I started basically digging into it. But yeah, that's how it started. You see, it's not about right and wrong, because you see, pain is a subjective matter. If you haven't observed it, even if I artistically and like accurately describe it to you, you're not going to understand how it feels.
Mhm.
Um, that's why we all have to be a little bit more empathetic about other people's like struggles. But everybody struggles. That's the nature. I don't like to usually use this word, but it's kind of in the nature of the world. Struggle. It's the things that it's the choices that we make upon those struggles that basically builds us. And it
Irfan,
built me.
I don't want to interrupt you, but there was something you said earlier, and I just want to kind of go back to that when you said, you kind of dismissed what you had did when you made your statement and you publicly spoke the statement at the university. I think that that was a tremendous act of bravery on your part to be able to speak your heart and mind in a country where your freedom of expression is not really a freedom. It's not a right that you have, and for you to do that at a university where you already know that you're in a oppressive regime, you know that any moment they can just with a snap of a finger and a quick decision, you're done with. But with that being said, I have to ask, and I apologize, but do you still have family that still reside in Iran? So,
All my
uh,
family,
okay. Is there,
uh,
I mean, not to say that this podcast would ever be seen by anyone in that government, but if so, would that pose any danger to your family?
it might,
Okay,
yes.
so
I was
I
actually thinking, oh, you were saying, I'm sorry.
because I'm kind of like I want to be respectful to the family that you still have there. So, what I would like to not do is if you want to, kind of move forward with the discussion, is purely up to you. Because again, I want to be mindful and respectful to you as well as your family that still live in Iraq.
Um, when I was back home, I only came here a year ago.
Okay.
The only thing that I was like, the only thing that I could like imagine constantly, especially at the end of it, because we were in the revolution under the banner of women, life, freedom. And it's the most beautiful thing that I've ever heard in my life. But I kept thinking that because I've got younger sisters, I would die for them. I would do anything for them. They're my entire world. And I kept seeing the faces of those young children who went out and got killed. They had families as well, like Nika Shakarami, Hadis Najafi, Mahsa Amini. Well, the situation with Mahsa is a little bit different, but people like Nika, uh, which was a kid, she was a kid when she went out, started revolting. Is that she actively knew what's gonna happen, but she did it anyways because like maybe it's the subjective part of the struggle. I don't know, but like people in Iran, they're living on a different shell. Like they're living in a different kind of world. Revolting and fighting, especially for the women, is a daily thing. If you're not wearing your hijab in your street, you are revolting because any moment their morality police can like basically capture you, beat you to death, and your life would end. But they do it anyways. Um, there's this saying that we always used to say, dead won't die. If we're already dead, so you see what I'm trying to say? Like,
It's a
maybe I'm being a bit vague,
No,
but
it's a very
um,
grim and harrowing, mindset to be in a country where you can't express yourself. You can't say, "Hey, this is wrong," or "Hey, I believe this instead of this," and you just and it's like you said, could be snatched up, beaten, or never seen again by your family. And that's just, I know a lot of, you mentioned the word empathy earlier, and it's, like I feel like a tremendous amount of sorrow for people that live in the country under this oppressive type regime, but at the same time, it's like I will never fully understand the feeling of waking up in this world every day. I will never fully understand, as you said. I can have some empathy and feel a little bit of compassion and sorrow, but as I see how the emotion is clearly in your face and in your eyes as you speak, and share this story with us. And my heart goes out to you, Irfan. It's when you mentioned all the lives lost and the families that have suffered and continue to suffer. It is just an atrocity against humanity. Because at the end of the day, I like to tell people, because I've lived overseas for a lot of my life, and a lot of people back in the United States would be like, "Oh, how can you live in the Middle East, or how can you live with in the Islamic region and all these things?" And I say, your misconceptions of other cultures and religions is simply this: is that you don't understand that beyond the religion and the practices and the customs, there's human beings. And where I've traveled to 91 plus countries, and I have found everywhere I go, most people, generally speaking, around the world, want to be able to live in peace, be able to, earn some money, provide for their family, have their children grow to be more successful than they were. That is the hope of any for parent. And I've been a single parent to two daughters, and you made a statement about you would die for your two sisters. I felt that, man, because as a father, I would die for my daughters, and then anything to protect them and make their world a safer place and keep them safe. So I felt that. And if you want to share more of your story, I'll definitely allow you to. So back to you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just had to just give a comment, some feedback there. It's just a tremendous story.
Thank you so much. Thank you for anybody who's listening. Thank you for your time. And so yeah, that's how it started for me. We had to learn how to protect ourselves. We had to learn how to be anonymous and still be active, because in this modern society, castration is all I'm saying. Like, we think that we are doing something, but we're actually not doing anything. We're just playing along with how they want us to play along. I'm not the thing is, at the end of the day, when we're trying to go to sleep, what have we done to make that day worth living? Basically, my brain is basically jumping all around, but anyways, I'm gonna
Okay.
go back. So we had to learn how to protect ourselves, how to stay anonymous, especially when you're in the streets. You got to know your enemy. You got to know what they're carrying, what kind of walkie-talkies they're using, what kind of, and I'm coming from an engineering background, so I had to know. How can we spoof them? How can we use a jammer against them? How can we stay alive, basically? It's not coming from my passion for basically knowledge. Is basically me.
Necessity.
Yeah, exactly. It's a necessity. We are trying to survive. And like me, I'm pretty sure the most people right now, they know how to use a VPN.
Yeah.
Most of them know what a VPN is. But in Iran, we had to learn how to use a VPN, because everything is censored, everything is filtered, and you're basically, without a VPN, you're not going to be able to access internet. And knowledge is power. If like, it's one of the best, like, it's one of the one-on-one tactics of a fascist regime. So, and I gotta say this: there's a difference between fascism and dictatorship. And in a dictatorship, there's just one guy who's a bad guy, and you bring him down, and it's done.
Mhm.
But in a fascism, you're dealing with ideologies, you're dealing with things that are more complicated. Like the person who is in the streets killing our citizens right now, he thinks that he is doing the right thing. That's the messed up part.
Yeah.
Uh, Dealing with a fascism or fascist regime. Um, anyways, I totally forgot what I wanted to say. Do you
It's
remember?
perfectly fine, Erfan. I know you had mentioned there was a gentleman on Twitter, and if you, I do would like for you to share his link to me, because anything that you speak about, please share me the links to the resources, because I want to make sure I put them in the description. And you mentioned that he was very influential when you would, see the things he would post on social media, and it made you ask questions like, "What is OSINT?" And then eventually those things became part of your means to, I guess, survive, as you said, in this state where you had to learn how to evade detection, be able to not be detected, your movements, etc., using VPNs to hide the things that you're looking up and the information that you're getting. During that time when you're pulling information, you're beginning to learn the first steps of OSINT. What was some of the sites and tools that you was using at that time?
At the time, of course, we were using S tunnels. We were using how to like dig our own, make our own VPNs, and basically, I learned how metadata works for the first time. Like, uh, and that was a big hit because like the agents of the Islamic Republic regime, they basically they're everywhere. In the streets, they could be your neighbor. They could be texting you as a friend, uh, and they could like put honeypots on social media to basically identify you as a citizen. Because as soon as they know who you are, you're done. And there are no laws in Iran. Like they can kill anyone that they like. Uh, so yeah, basically, we were learning how to be safe, how to protect our anonymity, and how to stay anonymous. And we were basically teaching those things that we were learning at the time to other people, to our friends, to our families, to our other fellow fighters, basically. And I actually remember they used to spy on citizens with a malware, and we actually found out later because we did an analysis on one of the applications that is mandatory for a citizen in Islamic Republic regime to actually install. It was a malware that basically stole anything. Basically, it was monitoring what you're doing on your phone. Um, but yeah, at the time it was like that. And Aleph was the person that I mentioned. That's how I started doing military analysis as well. I learned it from people like him. I don't know him directly, of course, but I was always following him. And that's the process of learning, imitation. I was imitating them. I'm still imitating people. Like, hey, that person is doing that. That seems cool. I want to do that. Like, I'm pretty sure you know about the method of 1x1 pixel. That basically, I send you a file, you open it, voila, I get your IP address, MAC address. Wow, that was amazing. At 2019, that was like the world to me. I was like, oh my God, I'm a hacker. Let's go hack NASA. Well, it was pretty fun to me at the time. And like, yeah, it was a big deal. And I was fascinated about learning those things as well. My memory is failing me right now. I'm
It's
so
okay,
sorry.
Erfan. You just said something about learning being fascinating to you, and I think that anyone that's watching this that has any desire to be an IT cyber, it takes a fire. It takes just this deep desire where you want to learn. It's fascinating to you. And that's one of the things I love about technology. There's always emerging technology, new ways to do things. There's new threats. There's always something in every sector of cyber and IT to learn about, to study, to grow. And one person, even if today you reached 100% of knowledge of everything, if you was able to attain that, but by the next day there'd be another 100,000 AIs, another 100,000 applications developed by various people. It keeps evolving and adding and more. It's like the galaxy expanding. There's always going to be more things to learn, always more tools, more information sharing, ways to share information. So back to open source intelligence, what a lot of people don't understand about open source intelligence is that, one, like you said earlier, it's publicly available information. A lot of folks don't realize how much information of their own, personal information is out on the internet. And we're not just talking about what you put on social media. Let's just exclude social media for a moment. We're talking about public records of addresses. Like in America, we pay taxes, and all that has to be of record. And so there's addresses. So if you Google yourself and maybe the town, you usually need, at least what I say to tell people, you need two pieces of information minimum to correlate some data somewhere. So usually you just need someone's name, which you can get that. A lot of places to get someone's name, or just meeting someone on the internet, you get their name. And of course, I said excluded social media, but you can also learn a lot about someone from their social media. But if you have a name, and you have one other piece of information, like the university they attended, where they work is actually really, really Powerful. And then, or an address. Once you get another piece of information, you can start really finding out more information. It's kind of a cascading effect. You find this site and this information, then you found out a little bit more. You have a phone number now. Then you look up other family members, which you can look at their information, and then you start putting together a picture of who this person is based upon publicly available information. And that's just for people. You know, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what information you can find out by companies and businesses and organizations. So could you maybe elaborate a little bit on things? And you don't have to be specific and name any individuals or companies, but maybe give some examples of, hey, in my career so far, I was able to find this, I was able to find this. Maybe keep it generalized just for confidentiality purposes.
Um, well, I can actually name one of them, which doesn't like deny any confidentiality. We were basically working on documents and like evidences of all the companies that IRGC has, and it was amazing. Like because in a country like Iran, not everything is on internet, but still you could see the breadcrumbs. And if you follow those breadcrumbs, as you said, they will branch out,
Yeah.
and you can find the company, and now you have an email. And with the email, you can do, I don't know, social intelligence. And with that, you can gather more information. The moment that I have access to somebody's email, people do not understand how much they're feeling like how bad that is, actually. They're feeling so comfortable, too comfortable, sharing information online, making bad emails. The moment that I have that person's email, I'm going to be able to basically do something bad to a company that he is working in. If you want to attack a company, like that's one of the things that you got to learn in cybersecurity. If you want to attack a company, you got to exploit the personnel, because it's the easiest way. Because we actually have a job because of one aspect, because of one thing, human error.
Yep.
And that's how it started. Like we branched it out, and like we found other people, and with that we found the social, you won't believe it, but we found social security numbers, social insurance numbers. And they were feeling like their websites, they were so, oh my god, they were badly made. Like you could like just like the links were just easy access. Like you could just delete some link and voila, you have access to the database. Wow. With all the information of all the personnel that works in that specific company.
Mm.
And basically, we were doing this because they were stealing from our people. Like they're stealing, they're oligarchs, right?
Yeah.
And like if a big company exists there, it doesn't like necessarily mean just Iran, like Russia, China, anywhere that is just like countries like that. You got to be related to the power structure somehow. So we were trying to map all the data and understand how the system works. Where does the money go? Because Iran is a rich country. Oh my God, is a rich country. Has a
Oh yeah.
lot of resources. And where is that money going? Like, oh, like you can Al Qaeda or like ISIS or like Hamas. Like it's just out there. They're paying the terrorists with our money. So we had to like track it. And that's how it started, basically. And but yeah, oh man, it was a journey. There were times that we were like scratching our eyes. We were like, oh, I don't know what to do. I gotta call somebody else. Maybe they know something to do about this. And it's all about asking, right? Because I don't like, as I said, I'm the smallest member of this community, and I'm just glad to be here. But like
Well,
whenever you're
I'm
having,
glad that you're here, Erfan. I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm glad that out of all the tragedy and the situations that you found yourself in just the past few years, that you were able to find this. I consider this a calling and a purpose, and we in cyber, we need you, Erfan. We need folks like you that are not only working for, we'll talk about CSI Linux in a minute, but sharing information, helping people in the community grow up and come up as well. I love how you're just a wealth of knowledge as well, and even though you're young, you have so much ahead of you. I see so much greatness ahead of you because you have a wonderful soul. You have a beautiful soul, if I could say so. And
Thank
I don't mean to interrupt you, and I'm sorry, I'm mumbling here a bit, but you know, if not to sound condescending, but I'm proud that you've made the choices you've made to be in this field and to be, you know, learning more and just being a perpetual student of the art as well as the technology. So thank you for that. Um, if you don't mind, I do want to talk about more current stuff you're doing because, you know, I know we could talk for hours about different, you know, projects and campaigns and activities and so forth. But I like to, you know, kind of step up, you know, because people that are listening so far and reach this point, they're thinking, okay, level 99 guy right here, brilliant guy. You know, how do I do threat intelligence? How do I OSINT? Where do I begin? What would there be a website or YouTube channel or an individual you would recommend? I know you made one recommendation of a gentleman already, and we'll put that link in the description. But I would like if you would just maybe mention a few websites that people could start with that are like level one, you know, kind of like where you were back at one time where, hey, I want to learn about this stuff. It sounds cool, but where do I begin?
Of course. I'm gonna use metaphors if I may, because
Okay.
life is long and boring. There are doors and hills for those who want to take the steps. Websites like Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, CSI, like the materials are endless out there.
Hmm.
Um, you can just find the perfect, like, because everybody learns in a different way.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not saying this is the best way, but I learn better in this way. If that service, if that website, because there are a lot of websites out there that are teaching you these stuff, how to be a red teamer, how to be a SOC analyst, how to be a defender, how to be an offensive hacker. Um, there are a lot of websites out there and there are a lot of courses. Um, but I learn better if it has a lab, if it has something that I could like, oh, I learned this. I just learned this. I want to see how to use it. Like the moment that you're actually practicing the thing that you just learned, if like you're basically that's the process of learning. If you keep doing that, you're gonna have a skill. And
You,
uh,
you know, the you actually hit the nail on the head, I think, when it comes to getting your hands dirty with the applications, the programs, the technology. You got to get your hands dirty, and that's the best way to learn is by doing. Because you could watch simulations all day long, you could go multiple choice questions to get theory and concepts. But at the end of the day, where it really matters is where you get your hands on the keyboard, you start running routines, running, you know, even if you start with scripts, just understanding what these scripts are doing and what processes they're automating. I know they refer to those as script kiddies, but that's not a bad place to start. It's foundational. It gets you moving in the right direction. But then you start to actually learn how to compile things and put things together. So one of the resources I used to recommend to a lot of folks, I say, look, if you really want to get your hands dirty, Kali Linux. It's a free distro. You download it, put VirtualBox on your machine. I'm trying to remember the other one. VirtualBox is the most common one for PCs, but there's another virtualized software for Windows. But VirtualBox is what I'm remembering right now. But VirtualBox is free, and then you can set your memory to, set all your virtualization settings, and then you can run Kali Linux on your computer in a virtual
yeah.
space because there's certain tools on there you kind of don't want to, get to your system, if you will. But it's a great way to just get your hands dirty, and by using like a Try Hack Me or any of these sites or YouTube channels that are stepping you through different tools that are within that Kali Linux compilation or distro rather. That's usually what I recommend. But is there any tool similar to that that you would recommend, Irfan?
Similar to Kali Linux.
Hmm. Yes.
Uh, Definitely. I'm gonna be biased and say CSI Linux.
All right.
Um,
Good that you mentioned that. So CSI Linux, I actually the reason why we're even connected is I was on LinkedIn and one of the founders, I'm trying to remember his name off the top of my head, and my brain drew a blank. Had did a
Jeremy Martin.
post, huh?
Jeremy Martin.
I believe so, Martin. I saw a post about the CSI Linux. I said, "Oh, what is this CSI Linux?" And so I went to the website. I started looking at, what it's for, and I was like, "This is a brilliant initiative to really bring a tool set like this that's focused on, first and foremost, the highest level. I say digital forensics is what I'll first say. And then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's a little bit of reverse malware engineering as a component of it.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
so there's a lot of layers to this tool set. And so can you maybe talk us through, well, first let's start with the story, like a quick story of, why CSI Linux, and then talk about the components that make up what CSI Linux is and what it can do for, our industry.
Well, how it started for me was like I was looking for an alternative to Kali, and I found CSI, and I fell in love with it like
Mhm.
right away because like it has this case management system. You
Okay.
basically open it, you select your case, and you're like and then after that you select the type of your case. Is it an OSINT case? Is it malware analysis? Is it cyber forensics? Is it like what are you trying to do? You basically select the type, and it's going to give you all the tools that you need. Oh, you're doing an OSINT case? Okay, these are the tools that you need. Oh my God. And I fell in love with it
So it's
right
kind
away.
of like it's funneling you to the right tool for the right job.
Exactly.
Wonderful. So,
Especially if you're
so
doing cyber forensics, especially if you're doing cyber forensics.
wonderful. What would you say are some of the highlights of the tool? Like, what are some of the things that it does better than tools that companies are paying lots of money to license? What would you say is the bread and butter? If you had to say the 1-2 punch of CSI Linux is this and this.
Basically, it gathers all those genius tools and just basically one click away from you. It's all there. And we're actually, our team is just, oh my God, I die for them. They are absolutely amazing. From Alex to Jeremy. Jeremy Martin is one of the most knowledgeable people that I've met in my entire life. That dude is a genius. And the way that he thinks, I love him. I love him. The way that he thinks. Basically, the CSI gathers all the tools that you need for your case, automates the process of data gathering and investigation. Like you don't have to manually go and like do social intelligence, like social media intelligence, or use third-party applications. You just have to like type the username that you're looking for, and maybe they made a mistake, and it's gonna flag it for you right away. Easy as that. Like I don't have to
Wow.
like spend hours and hours on Facebook looking for one tiny mistake. It gives me everything. It graphs everything out for me, so it's visual. I can see everything. Like one of the things that because I do be overthinking all the time. I'm always overthinking. For of course, as you know, you gotta have sock puppet accounts, and one of the first tools that I used on CSI basically was the sock puppet account generator. You click a button, it's gonna give you an identity. It's gonna make it into a document, and from that, you're gonna be able to make your fake online personas if you want to track something, if you want to like basically it's for when you're dealing with cases like this. It doesn't matter if you're following human trafficking or a human trafficking case, a cyber crime, or just a regular cyber crime, or like a or you're working counterterrorism. You gotta hide your identity. You gotta be safe. And for me, it was awesome. It was just one click away. I didn't have to do like uh, anything. I'm lazy.
Yeah. And just to kind of clarify, when you mentioned the sock puppet accounts, these are like, when people think about like in the spy movies, they have like the burner phones where they take and they break the phone and they get another phone, and it's the concept is the same, meaning you have to keep changing your online identities. You have to, use an identity once, or people on Reddit will know this as a throwaway, right? A throwaway account, right? It's a very similar concept because again, if you are looking up these things, you don't know when someone might be monitoring you, trying to monitor them. And so there's a movie with Mark Wahlberg years ago called the Big Hit, and there's a scene where the guy's doing the tracing on the phone. It's the Trace Buster Buster. Anyhow, not to digress, but as you're doing these things to gather information or just kind of poke around a website, you don't know what might be monitoring you. And so having things like tools like a VPN, being able to bounce your signal, have these accounts to shield and keep you anonymous is crucial. And of course, the worst thing you want to do is have your real name associated with something bad too, and possibly be nabbed into a bigger investigation that you had no clue was happening at that time. And it happens, and and there's a lot of folks out there that aren't aware about doing proper reconnaissance and doing proper covering your tracks and so forth. So now about the CSI Linux tool though, is it free? Is it available for free or is it licensed?
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to pay.
It is
So
open source and it is free. Anybody can just install it today. Like it's easy as that. And basically, one of the things that made me join CSI was what Jeremy has his mind. Like he once said that if all of this would be worth it, all of this fodder would be worth it, if we could even save one life, if we could even inspire one person to protect them, to learn how to protect themselves and others, it would be worth it. So of course it's going to be free. Of course it's going to be for everybody.
I applaud and praise you guys and the team at CSI Linux for keeping it free. So anyone watching this now, I also have the link for CSI Linux, but you can just as simple as Google it. It's your top thing you're going to find. And to be able to provide such a powerful distro like that with all of the tools baked in and the ease of use, as Erfan explained it, it's just amazing. When you think of like back in the day, you would have to use all these different sites. Like one of my favorite sites was Shodan, right? And I know a lot of government organizations like to use that tool too, and it's a very powerful tool. But imagine having that plus everything else wrapped up, like you said, it'll navigate you right to where the right tool for the right job and the right case that you're working on. A lot of folks again have no clue how deep the rabbit hole goes when it comes to information. And we could talk privacy. That's another discussion. But people really should even if you wanted to learn as a cyber professional or anyone, just a random normal person watching this and just thought you want to get in cyber, now you're hearing about what does the government have information, what public information about me? Maybe your starting point is to get this tool set downloaded, launch it, and just look yourself up. See how vulnerable your identity is online. And by learning this and protecting yourself, you're learning a new tool set. You're learning something new. And that right there is like, as you said, I love that idea of just helping one person. When I'm also an author, and when I would write my book series, I kept thinking, well, people like this. Will I make millions of dollars? And I had to remind myself, it's not about the money. The money is not the goal. The goal is if I could just change one child's life, make them change their lives, go into a STEM field, and so that's what has happened. So many kids globally have been inspired by my series to study the STEM subjects. I've helped kids that were C and below grade average become honor roll students, and I'm not teaching them mathematics, but it's inspiring them to stick with it. Just a short of it, just to explain Erfan. It's think of it like Harry Potter, but my wizards are ancient Greek mathematicians. So I have like my Gandalf of my series is Archimedes, who's the goat when it comes to mathematicians. Then I have Pythagoras. I have all these different ancient Greek mathematicians. So kids are learning about magic as equations and algorithms and things that allow things to happen. And so, one of the concepts I try to teach in the series is mathematics is just another way of talking. And so once kids stick through it, that A plus B equals C after a while is not so confusing, and they stick with it long enough to be able to be taught by the proper teachers and educators in the world. So anyhow, but the concept you just mentioned of CSI Linux and the team about just saving one person, helping one person, beautiful concept, powerful stuff there. So I'd like to talk about, obviously TopCyberPro, we help people get their certifications so they can get into the cybersecurity industry. And we talked about some resources to learn about threat intelligence, to learn about OSINT and et cetera. But what would be some certifications that you would say, like for entry level, this is a decent cert that's worth your time and money. And then for more intermediate, maybe this cert, and then advanced, look at these certs. Could you maybe give a quick, like a rough roadmap?
Well, as you know, the certifications are not cheap at all.
No,
Like
no.
at first, my biggest recommendation is to stuck with free materials out there or cheap ones.
Yes.
Economically reasonable, let's say. Because you're just starting. You got to know if you like it or not. You got to
Yes.
basically with these with this step, I'm gonna go with websites like maybe Try Hack Me. Like if you want to start learning, because it is like a really focused and knowledgeable website with knowledgeable people. Oh my God. And it has the labs. You get to make your hands dirty. You get to learn on projects. And that's what we're trying to do on CSI as well. So there's a little bit difference between like websites like Try Hack Me and CSI. And it's basically, that is mainly focusing on like websites like Try Hack Me. They're mainly focusing on cybersecurity, but CSI is mainly focusing on cyber forensics, and there's a difference. And maybe they're using the same language, maybe they're using the same tools, but the approach is massively different.
Yes.
And like, for example, on Try Hack Me, you're going to learn how to exploit a network. You're going to understand how a network works. These would be the alphabets of our language in cybersecurity. You got to know how the package works. How do you can like do an analysis on logs on a system? Do how to like you learn how to use Splunk, which is like it's a must. You got to know how to use Splunk and all that stuff. But on CSI, you're learning how to do OSINT. You're learning how to do cyber forensic. You're learning basically ICS, which is industrial control system, and you're learning aerospace cybersecurity, which is a course that I'm working on. And like you're learning those kind of stuff. So first you got to understand which path you want to go in. So make a social media account if you don't have one already, and start following the people who are doing the job. Learn how to do it. See if you like it. Try to imitate them a bunch of times.
I love
And
that.
basically find your way. So in the first step, cheap or free or economically reasonable certifications. That would be it. For the second, basically step, I would definitely suggest like certifications like certified ethical hacker. That would
It's good
be
entry
real.
level.
Yeah, that would be awesome, because like for that you basically need a little bit more money, right?
Yeah.
You got to be a little bit more sure if you want to really go down this road to spend that much money.
Yes.
That's but yeah,
Okay.
ADHD. I forgot.
So one of the ones I recommend a lot of folks, and this is, of course, I always tell them do Kali Linux, and then now I'm going to advocate for CSI Linux now. I'm going to say, hey, do both. Learn everything. Try all these free sites, follow all these YouTubers, learn, get your hands dirty. When you feel like, hey, I'm ready for the next level, once I've done the free and low cost to no cost, as I say, then the next level is, I like your CEH recommendation. It teaches a little bit more concepts on top of your hands-on. And they do introduce a few labs in their test, but not really. But when you really want to go all in into this environment, I thoroughly recommend a lot of people look at offensive security. Yes, it's a little pricey. Certifications aren't cheap. But before I even say offensive security, this is the best advice I'd give anyone. Anyone watching this right now, before you even endeavor into this field, look up terms like OSINT, look up threat intelligence, look this up in like LinkedIn or whatever job search engine you want to use. Put these terms in and look at the different titles and what's in your area, your state, your country, because if you can't move, you have to look at what's in demand in your area if you're not going to move. But if you're willing to move across the country or to another region, start plugging in some searches. And that right there will take you 15, 20 minutes to do some searches, some filters, and to figure out, okay, people in threat intelligence make this kind of salary. These are the requirements. These are the certifications that the employers, once I look at 10 to 15 of these postings, I'm seeing CEH on like 8 out of 10. Okay, good. Erfan is right. I need to add CEH to my roadmap eventually, So don't just take, any of our words for it. Do your own due diligence of researching the jobs in your area and where you would like to work, and become the job, become the need, right? But most importantly of everything is the hands-on. That's free. It only costs you your time and effort to learn and your commitment to learn. So I 100%, 110% co-sign with Erfan on get with the free stuff. Download these tool sets. Start learning the tools. Start Try Hack Me or YouTube University, as I call it. If you have the drive to learn everything and exhaust all of those free resources, then you're ready for the next level, which is looking to save up the money to get the professional certifications. And then some opportunities exist where you might be able to get an employer to sponsor and pay for this additional training and certifications. And again, I always like to say there's opportunities everywhere. You just got to keep looking for it. You know, just because today you don't find the right job, the right fit for you today, doesn't mean tomorrow or a week from then. You just got to be persistent and consistent to be in this industry. And it won't take long. Within 3+ years, you're considered mid-journey in your career, really, you know, nowadays with how technology moves. And by the time you hit 5+ years, you know, it won't be for long. A decade has flown by. And I mean, look at, like, you know, Erfan, you really seriously started in what, the November of 2019, roughly? And look at today, you know, fast forward 4 or 5 years, and you're considered, by my perspective, you're level 99 when it comes to this. I know you're a perpetual student, as we all are in this industry, but I think that the experience and the knowledge, because it's not about, oh, he's got 10 years experience or 20 years experience. It's about his capability. And if you look at an individual like Erfan here, this man is just tremendously capable because he self-taught himself, and he found mentors and people that would guide him and teach him these techniques, tactics, and all these different things that he's learned in a short amount of time. And that's the beauty of our industry in cyber, is that you can advance really quickly, really fastly, because it's an industry that will reward you for your efforts, and will reward you for, you know, being dedicated and just absorbing as much information as you can. And as you said earlier, knowledge is power. I like to say that knowledge is empowering, because with knowledge, people can empower themselves with the knowledge of what is the truth, and what is, without any filters, without any, you know, fake news or anything manipulating what the truth is. And that's what I truly believe in. So, Erfan, this is a moment where, you know, I know we've talked a lot of different tools, and we shared a lot of great information, but I like to, like, always inject some levity into the conversation. So if you would humor me and the people watching this, I'm just going to throw some rapid fire, like fastball questions at you. There's no right or wrong answer, and these are just meant to be tongue in cheek and fun. Okay.
Definitely.
All right. First one, cake or pie?
Cake.
Cake. All right. Okay. What flavor ice cream is the best?
Vanilla.
Vanilla. Okay. Is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Oh, wait. Okay, thought you said fun. This is wait a minute. It depends. It depends. Like, they're gonna hunt me down for this, but it is a sandwich.
A sandwich. Okay. Hey, there's
It's
no right or
in
wrong answers, right? And the last
You're
question,
putting
which
it in a bread. It is a sandwich.
it's a sandwich. There's no right or wrong on this one. This is the most divisive one in IT cyber, as I find, but Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars. I mean, Star Trek is amazing, and it started everything.
Yeah,
Uh, it's the OG one. But
true.
I gotta say Star Wars, but conditionally.
Okay.
Only the classic ones. I can tolerate the prequels, the sequels. Nope. I'd rather watch a blank wall. Nope.
Awesome. So, Irfan, what is, if people want to follow you other than just searching for you, LinkedIn, socials, is there a particular account you rather people connect to you on?
I'm mostly active on my Twitter.
Okay.
That's how I function. It's basically I'm gonna give you the username.
Okay.
Uh,
And I'll put that
but
in the description below as well. Yeah.
definitely it would be Twitter, and if you want to send me a message, it's gonna be in LinkedIn because it's more professional. We can talk
Mhm.
more professionally. But yeah, would be Twitter and LinkedIn. And definitely start following CSI Linux because we're doing some awesome stuff. It's gonna happen soon. You're gonna
An amazing initiative. It's an amazing project. I think that it's just going to be it's what the industry has been needing. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, let me connect to as many people in this organization as possible. So thank you for accepting my connection request, because I wanted to connect to you guys and have one of you on the podcast. And you're the first one from CSI Linux on this podcast. And I welcome, if there's any other colleague that you want to say, hey, if you want to just shoot me a message, say, hey, so and so would love to be on this podcast. I would love to talk more CSI Linux. Even if we just spent an hour, just kind of, they could share their screen and kind of show like what you were describing with the GUI. I would love to do something like that, because I truly believe in initiatives like this where we're trying to empower our community with these great, powerful tool sets like this. And so I'd love to have CSI Linux or any other representative, or if yourself you'd like to come back on, I'd love to have you on again, of course. So
I'm definitely recommending Alex. Alex is one of the most amazing people that we were working with in CSI. He's actually writing this AI that basically does everything for you from now on. It's called Navi. It's a cute little AI that he built, and it's training, and it's just absolutely amazing.
I
As
would
I said,
love to talk about this and see it in action.
CSI is this CSI Linux that you're seeing is just the beginning, and in like 6 months you're gonna see the difference because we're working on a lot of projects. So Navi is one of them that Alex is working on, and we're also having Lumen Radio, which is a show. We're basically making this immerse interactive universe that you get to go and accept basically cases, and you can solve them. You can hop on our servers on dark web and try to solve the case. Use all the things that you've learned on our website, because we have an academy part, right? We offer
Wow.
courses, and you get to like solve those crimes, solve those mysteries. Like it's like CTFs, but way more, way what
Oh, it
much,
sounds
much.
super cool. I mean, it's already beyond CTF, so which for those watches capture the flag type of events. Um, Irfan, I can't thank you enough for the time you sharing your personal story on this podcast, and sharing just a wealth of information. And of course, I have not ever told any other guests this verbally, but I'm going to tell you right now, you have an open invitation to come back on the podcast anytime you wish to talk about any topic, subject that's IT cyber related, even remotely. I just enjoyed this conversation that I've had with you. And you are, just like I said earlier, you're a beautiful person with a beautiful soul, man. And I'm so happy we have folks like you with the passion and drive that you have in cyber, because that's what we need. We need so many more people like you that are empowering other people and just raising up the industry on just all the efforts that you do. And just in closing, I kind of just want to, give you just a few minutes, because I remember something you said earlier in the conversation with your story in Iran, and how you had to learn certain tools and techniques to survive. And with that being said, I think the most powerful way to close off is for not just folks like in the US or Europe or anywhere in the world, but particularly if you were speaking to people in Iran, what would be some tools that you could, that you're willing to share? And just like if you had to say the top three things to be mindful of to do to protect your identity online, like top three, top five, you can take as much time as you want here. I don't want to rush you. But if you were speaking to people right now that were in desperate need of trying to stay alive digitally, right? What would be the things you'd recommend to them? And I think that's the best way we could end this podcast, is with this kind of powerful information.
Um, I'm not going to start with a tool. I'm going to start with a word, with a creed. It's OPSEC, operational security. We gotta learn how to utilize that. That would be the most important thing, because applications, tools, softwares, as you know, it's our job to exploit them. And if we don't do it, somebody else will. So they're always crooked. So we gotta learn how to have that mindset of OPSEC all the time, operational security. And after that, you can like basically manipulate and tool anything that you see in around you, because everything is a tool. Subjectively speaking, there is no objective truth out there. You can tool anything.
Yes.
You can learn how to make your own S tunnels. You can learn how to use a V2 rays, how to build your own V2 ray, how to basically make commotion wireless. Like we had this idea back in the day that like how to make commotion wireless so publicly available So like every citizen like basically learns how it works and how to use it basically. Commotion Wireless would be the project that we gotta work on. Because as you know, whenever the regime wants to kill, they shut down the internet.
Yeah.
And we gotta stay connected. That's the only way. And basically, I have, my memory has failed me like so many times. I have the most horrible memory ever.
Okay.
So like when you're asking me something, I'm like blank, nothing. Like, but anyways, what I'm trying to say is that this is not just another thing out there. It's not just another major, especially for people who are living in that region. It's a tool for survival. You gotta start listening to what your like heart is saying. You're in pain, and if you're in pain, it's all right. You can always like fight back, and they are fighting back. I'm basically speaking nonsense now, but I'm criticizing myself all the time.
So
Anyways, um the tools won't matter at the end of the day because you got to learn how to search. As you said, start by searching your own name.
yes.
See what pops up and eliminate anything that is like in any way connected to your identity. Your identity is the most important thing. If they do not find you, if they cannot find you while you're fighting, if they do not understand what you're doing, they cannot harm you. You get to harm them. You get to fight back. And you see, I talk about fascist regimes all the time, and I think we all got to be scared a little bit because um, I'm gonna misquote Machiavelli for this one. But a ruler has no duties but to keep the power by any means. It's
Beautiful. That's a very powerful quote.
it's the most manageable way to rule for a ruler. Fascism. It
Yes.
takes away the sense of revolt, the revolution. It takes away that. And if you don't have the sense of revolution, they can do anything that they want with you. And they're gonna last. Did you know that fascism has never overthrown by the hands of its own people? Never. That is the part that makes fascism so strong. And we gotta understand we are dealing with the most evil way of governing people. So
Yes.
we got to learn how to protect ourselves. And at the end of the day, I keep telling everybody this ain't a job, it's a life worth living for.
Well, that I can't think of any other way to sum up everything. You've done so very eloquently, and I know you've been very self-critical, Irfan, but I think today you've delivered very powerful messages. That quote, the Machiavellian quote, also very powerful. So thank you so much for sharing all that, sharing your knowledge and wisdom and your story. So I have no other better way to end it than saying thank you so much, Irfan, and it's been wonderful having you on the Top Cyber Pro podcast, and I look
Seriously.
forward to having you on again. So thank you so much.
Take care.